Most people dealing with shoulder issues try to strengthen up their rotator cuff. In this video, I'm going to go over 3 key exercises you can't miss when you're trying to strengthen the shoulder. What's going on? I'm Dr. Nick, and in today's video, we are going all over rotator cuff strength. Now, before we dive into all the exercises and the intricacies of rotator cuff strengthening, we have to understand what the rotator cuff is and what it does and the function. So this is the shoulder right here, right shoulder. So if we take it off our skeleton friend here, we have to look at what muscles originate on the scapula. So we have 2 muscles of the rotator cuff on the back. It's called the infraspinatus and the teres minor. One up top called the supraspinatus, and one in the front of the shoulder blade called the subscapularis. And all these muscles have different functions on the shoulder. The 2 muscles in the back bring the arm into what's called shoulder external rotation, or like this. That is what those 2 muscles are primarily responsible for. The supraspinatus up top right here brings the arm into flexion. Then the one on the front side of the scapula is called the subscapularis, originating right here, and that brings the arm into internal rotation. Now those 4 muscles of the rotator cuff surround the humeral head of the arm bone and essentially act as a suction cup of this humeral head into what's called the glenoid fossa on the scapula. So it aids in for support and stability of the shoulder joint. Now when we have issues in one or more than one of the muscles of the rotator cuff, it can tend to lead to inefficiencies of the function of the rotator cuff itself, leading to abnormal strain, abnormal stress, causing some issues to brew up at the shoulder. With anatomy and the function of the rotator cuff muscles out of the way, let's dive into the exercises. So with this exercise, we're taking a loop band and putting it on our wrists. From here, the elbows stay by the side of the body, and we're going out on the band slightly to build some tension so we feel the back of the muscles working. Help bias the rotator cuff, the external rotators, the teres minor and the infraspinatus you learned earlier of the rotator cuff. So when we go out into shoulder external rotation, we hold it there. From there, we maintain that, and we go all the way up and all the way down. Now notice the position of my forearms. You notice they'll stay parallel to each other. Now why is that important? Because this teaches and tells the body to function the external rotators of the rotator cuff in this position, because if they were turned off, they would collapse in and it would lead to instabilities and inefficiencies of the muscles. So when we're here and we're using the band for feedback and we go up like this, we're tensioning the rotator cuff external rotators in this position. If they were to shut off, my arms would go like this and collapse into internal rotation like that. So by emphasizing external rotation of the rotator cuff, muscles of the shoulder, we come up into this position and we're biasing those muscles of the back. Now you'll tend to get a very good burn with this exercise when you go out, you hold the tension, and you come up like this. Being aware not to collapse in like that, which would be a compensation throughout this exercise. Now also with this exercise, keep in mind we're biasing and targeting the external rotators a lot more versus if we had a band by the side and we're just doing something like this. When we do that, we tend to call on bigger muscles like the delt muscle to help and aid in the actual movement. So when we take this band and we go out and we move our arms up, there's nothing else that can support us but the external rotators of the shoulder, helping us bias this area much more effectively. This exercise is banded scaption, so we're taking a band that's not too tough in resistance, because the higher the resistance, the more so we'll call on bigger muscles to move the arm. So with this, our thumbs are going to be up, elbows locked out straight, and from here we're moving in what's called the scapular plane. So I'm not straight out in front of me, but I'm kind of going on this angle, this 45-degree angle, going into what's called the scapular plane. This helps bias the supraspinatus muscle of the rotator cuff. Are there other muscles kicked on? Of course, but this one helps really bias that flexion movement of the arm. So we're up here, hold it for a designated time, a second or so to get more time under tension, and we're going to repeat it. Now what this is also doing is helping us stabilize the arm through a particular range of motion with resistance. So instead of just having like a dumbbell in hand and we go up here, the highest resistance with the dumbbell is just up here when the force is going down. So with the band, we have more tension throughout the actual range of motion versus if we just use a dumbbell. So again, up and then down, keeping the thumbs up throughout this exercise versus thumbs down, which will lead into an internal rotated position where we don't really want to hammer that, as it can lead to some impingement-like symptoms and cause a little bit of issues at the shoulder. So thumbs up, elbows locked out straight, go up and then down, up and then down, really biasing that supraspinatus of the cuff. With this one, we're taking a light dumbbell, getting on our sides and tucking our elbow to the side and pinning our shoulder blade back and maintaining that position as we go up into shoulder external rotation like that. From here, we're help biasing the two muscles in the back of the shoulder, the infraspinatus and the teres minor. But in this case, this exercise has been shown to also target the lower trap. Why is that important? Because the lower trap muscle also has a function on the shoulder blade, helping the rotator cuff. The lower trap tends to tilt the shoulder blade backwards and up a little bit. That helps the shoulder blade actually function throughout a range of motion when you're moving your arm. So you get a 2-for-1 in this exercise. Now with this one though, you want to be aware of not compensating throughout this exercise. When you take a weight that's harder than what you could actually do, yeah, you might be getting your arm up, but you might just be rocking like this and compensating through the entire thing, and it's not as efficient or effective as you could possibly do. You want to get a weight that you can actually control the motion, where it's just pure bias to the external rotators of the rotator cuff and not trying to just move your shoulder blade to get the arm up. A light weight can do the job very well versus just adding weight to add weight. I hope those 3 muscles gave you some insight on why it's so important to strategically target the rotator cuff muscles, because of how it has a function on how we move the arm throughout space and the overall health of the shoulder joint itself. Hey, before you go, if you found value in this video, I would really appreciate it if you support my channel by subscribing down below, liking this video, and don't forget to turn on your post notifications so you never miss a video from me. This is Dr. Nick. I'll see you next time.